editing, because I definitely know a ton of that. Okay, so we're going to be getting into a video titled "The Propagandist Most Violated by Community Notes." It was created by a VTuber known as Andreas Werble. Before I really get into the video, I just wanted to be upfront with a thing or two. Andreas here, the creator of this video, had sought out my insight into the script editing, or into the script of it. I haven't watched the video just yet. I wanted to go through that with y'all as well. Yeah, I think that's it. This is not, like, typically when I go over such people in these types of videos, or when I'm calling people out, I tend to do my own stuff for it. This person wanted to make a video about not a VTuber, about some person who has been gaining some ground online, and I'll be honest, I don't really know, I don't remember exactly how this goes, and since I don't have a ton to add to the context of who this person is, I am also going to be giving feedback on editing, because I definitely know a ton of that. I kid, I have a little bit of a background in editing. Anyways, enough of a preamble. We're going to start up with checking out the person most violated by community notes on Twitter.
If you're on Twitter, you may have seen a feature called Community Notes. This is essentially crowdsourced fact-checking. I'm not sure if it could be automated, nor am I not sure how you would automate such a thing, but regardless, another thing related to Community Notes is the gimmick account Community Notes violating people. If you look at the account long enough, you'll get it quite familiar with a man who gets hit with particularly devastating community notes. While there are people who have been hit with more community notes, there isn't really anyone who's gotten more severe community notes.
Right off the bat, he's got a good, he's grabbing attention fairly well. I personally think I would have shifted stuff over to the side, a little to the left side of the screen a bit, so that we can still see the VTuber talking while they're talking and letting us know. Overall, so far, showing off sources to what they're referencing, real good to have, especially in a video essay.
That man's name is Scott Ritter. Now, before I go any further,
I think the disclaimer could have been a little shorter, because it kind of holds there for a few seconds. Overall, not a bad look to the video.
I'd like to request that if you watch this video, don't harass anyone I name in the video. If someone announces that they're having this video's subject on as a guest and you want to use this as a resource to change their mind, that's one thing. Just be polite, and if they're still committed to having him on, just drop the subject. But don't harass people who have already had him on that I name in the video, and also don't harass him either. Anyways,
I mean, as much as a nice sentiment it is to not harass Scott Ritter here, as he's going to show, it's something that keeps happening. I think I only actually really offered one change, and that was to have this disclaimer front loaded in the video instead of, like, I don't know, third, halfway through. I can't remember exactly where it was pasted.
With that out of the way, let's get into the subject of the video.
Yeah, into the meat.
Scott Ritter is a former Marine, a former UN weapons inspector, a common guest on geopolitical web shows, and a convicted pedophile. Now, I normally avoid saying stuff like that.
It just...
A common guest on geopolitical web shows, and a convicted pedophile.
Nice timing. Former UN weapons inspector found guilty in online sex case. Wow, he really got. Wait, wasn't it twice convicted? I do wonder where this article is from. This article is more than 12 years old. I mean, it wasn't something new.
Now, I normally avoid saying stuff like that unless I have proof, as aside from the fact that I and a lot of other people on the internet saw what happened when Mama Max falsely labeled people as pedophiles and what that label did to them, I'd rather not risk a defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, for people who aren't aware, Mama Max was a fairly prominent pedo hunter channel And long story short, it was like, it came out as the videos we make are all fictional, but the people we're making videos on are real pedophiles. Source, trust me, bro. I think they accurately called out one or two, but then they went on a witch hunt of this one specific person where they didn't actually have concrete proof for their claims. So that really blew up in their face. That was a pretty big drama.
Not going to elaborate on who Mama Max is, but I'll link a video by Lanza in the description if you want to know who he is. But as it just
FYI, that video by Lanza is very good, informative. Check it out if you're curious about who the hell Mama Max was.
so happens, I have Mr. Ritter's record right here, which
Oh,
I will
shit.
also link in the description. So if Mr. Ritter sees this and decides to try and sue me, all I have to say is, go ahead, make my day. You'll either have to acknowledge your criminal history in court under oath, or you'll commit perjury if you try and deny it. Also, while his full name is William Scott Ritter, I'm going to refer to him as Scott Ritter, or just by his last name, since, well, he uses Scott Ritter as his Twitter handle, so that is the name he wants people to call him.
I may not like him, but if that's the name he identifies with, I will call him that. That's how he's labeling himself to the world. That's how the world's going to refer to him.
Oh, Mr. Ritter's status as a convicted pedophile wasn't exactly a well-kept secret before recent events. A New York Times article from 2012 mentions it. It really only got to get traction after the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war. Because Mr. Ritter got pushed by the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a fair number of people began looking up stuff about him, and well, the rest is history. As a result, if he gets involved in an argument with someone, usually on Twitter, it's inevitable that someone will bring up his conviction. He'll deny it, although it's not like he could justify it, and he'll get community noted a good amount of the time.
Thank God community notes exist.
It's kind of like Godwin's Law, and because not only was this the sort of thing a case of life imitating art, or a meme in this case, but also because, well, I don't think I need to explain why society reviles pedophiles, it will get noticed by people who otherwise don't pay much attention to geopolitics. And while I was writing this essay, he even unintentionally exposed, pun unintended, but
James always forgive, no, don't expect much from temperature IQ dipshit like yourself. Your factually challenged ad hominem attack only underscores your own intellectual and moral failings, which for the purposes of Scott Ritter is a convicted sex offender who at least on 2 occasions sought to engage in sexual activity with children. This dude cannot win any debates online, any argument. He should just disappear.
Unavoidable himself to his audience by retweeting one of his own tweets that got community noted. A good amount of the information that I used as a starting point on Mr. Ritter comes from, and I'm going to probably butcher this name, so I do apologize if he sees this, Pekka Kalliomäki's Vatnik Soup series, which I will link in the description. I will also link the Twitter account of the person in question, so I hope he considers that at fair compensation. Anyways, however,
one change I would actually personally make here is whatever the hell that dude's name is.
Pekka Kalliomäki.
Yeah, that guy. I would have held this on the screen a bit longer so that it can sink into the people you're talking to, who you're actually talking to for a bit. It's like, I understand the keep things going, high-paced stuff, but you do need to let media set for a bit so that people can digest it. At least so they don't have to keep pausing to check everything.
Kalliomäki's Vatnik Soup series, which I will link in the description. I will also
personally, the Vatnik Soup logo, I would have
apologize if he sees this. Pekka Kalliomäki.
I would have put the soup logo right about here or something so that you get both of the things on. Right, all you can see here is the hashtag. It helps to have the logo.
Kalliomäki's Vatnik Soup series, which I will link in the description. I will also link the Twitter account of the person in question, so I hope he considers that at fair compensation. Anyways, however, I'm equally focused on why he keeps on getting back up and continuing to contribute to the discussion online, as well as speculate if there's any—
Fuck, I asked that question about a lot of the pedophiles I've called out.
anything that could actually get him to leave for good. And also make this video because I'm honestly surprised by the lack of content about the guy. I only know of 3, at the time of writing this script, 4 when I started actually recording, channels that have talked about him. Dylan Burns, who made 2 videos talking about him.
If you don't know Dylan Burns, he is super duper based. He's been doing a lot of Ukrainian war coverage in Ukraine. I've known of Dylan for a couple years now, I want to say. Definitely worth checking out. His insights are good and pretty upstanding guy from what I've seen.
Laser Pig, who kind of talked about him in one video, and a channel for expats called Connor Klein. Yeah, that last one is really weird.
Channel for expats? Like expatriates? People living in other countries? Wacky. I've never heard of this Connor Klein.
But while I was editing this video, and when I decided I should record a lot of this stuff that I'm using, a surprisingly well-made video on Mr. Ritter's claims about the Russo-Ukraine war by a channel called The Military Show was posted that actually looks at his claims. So I guess you could consider this video a companion piece to that video. But anyways, let's keep looking at Mr. Ritter as a person. Now, Scott has kind of found himself on the anti-war and pro-Russia side of the Russo-Ukraine war, usually cited by the pro-Russian sources. He's even contributed—
Okay, so he's pro-war? The irony of having a career checking weapons but letting his own piece out inappropriately. Yeah, true.
To Russia Today. Now, it is worth pointing out that Russia Today is not only literally state-run propaganda, but it's also rated as a questionable source by the website Media Biased Fact Check. Although in Mr. Ritter's defense, and Russia Today's defense, this is the only time you'll hear me say this in regards to Russia Today, Mr. Ritter's contributions to Russia Today are opinion pieces, not articles. But still, I don't—
To the wrong people, opinion pieces are articles. Back to them. All they need to do is hear somebody say it, and then they can just regurgitate it endlessly.
I don't think I need to explain this, but pedophiles are probably one of the most universally hated groups of people in society. In fact, in prisons—
First time I've ever heard about this one.
Sex offenders in general receive special hatred from most other prisoners in comparison to those convicted of other crimes. And there's also the fact that sex offenders in general have a hard time finding a job. And if you want more information on that, I'll link a paper in the description. Well, I do believe that society should make it easier for those who are falsely accused to clear their name. Mr. Ritter was actually caught in the act. So why do people still bring him on as a consultant, given his conviction? Well, it's because of his service record. Scott Ritter is a former analyst for the U.S. Marine Corps who worked on the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and the Iran-Iraq War, as well as a former UN weapons inspector who inspected weapons in Iraq up until Saddam Hussein's regime kicked him out. This, combined with the stance he publicly took on the Iraq War right before it happened, namely he was in opposition to it, might make him seem like a prominent name that networks should be fighting over for guest spots. Yet, as I mentioned, he's not appeared on any major TV network, on CNN, Fox, MSNBC, or even OAN or Newsmax. Instead, rather, he makes his appearances on YouTube channels such as Danny Haifong, who himself has admitted that he worked for CGTN, the Chinese equivalent of Russia Today, and Cyrus Jansen, who, while not employed by CGTN, has associated with them in the past. Aside from CGTN being literal state-run propaganda, much like Russia Today, they also have a rating of questionable sources from the website Media Biased Fact Check. Somewhat surprisingly, Mr. Ritter has not appeared as a guest on InfoWars. There is also one supposed—
Oh my god. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually ended up on InfoWars one day.
pro-Ukraine channel called The Enforcer, which cited him as a source, but I cannot show that on the YouTube side of things, unfortunately, because that channel is quite happy to file false DMCA claims against people. If you want that clip, you'll have to go watch the mega video version, which is in the description. Now, I was going to add some additional comments about some of the other channels I found that were talking about Mr. Ritter that had no ties to CGTN, but then I looked into what other channels he's appeared on aside from the two I mentioned, and I found some rather odd results. The first was a channel called Gacha Gaming, which is not dedicated to gacha games like Fate Grand Order or Genshin.
I think I remember hearing about something that was a lot of gaming channels have been offered money to make political content. Chris Raygun's talked about it before. And this just looks like one of those channels that did general gaming content and then, well, they're getting money for some reason to have this guy and his, what, 3 pictures in the thumbnails?
Matcha games like Fate Grand Order or Genshin Impact prior to uploading Mr. Ritter's stuff, but rather the game Gacha Life. I have no idea what that game's like, so I'm not going to comment.
What the hell is Gacha Life, and how does an account have like 100,000 subscribers on it? Well, I don't respect Scott Ritter, but I respect that grind, I guess.
On it. The second was a channel called Lin Crochet, which was kind of all over the place. Given that both of these channels were posting stuff in Vietnamese up until a few months ago, I'm assuming it's Vietnamese anyway, since that's what Google Translate tells me, I can't help but wonder if someone bought these channels on Mr. Ritter's behalf. The funny thing about Mr. Ritter's record is, if you actually take a look at what he did on his job while he was serving, his anti-war record actually becomes somewhat questionable. According to an interview his former boss, Richard Butler, did, Mr. Ritter is someone who, if he made his mind up about something, would insist that it was the truth, even if he didn't have anything to back it up. For example, as I mentioned, during the 1990s, he was as one of the UN weapons inspectors in Iraq, and in a 1998 interview with Jim Lear, even stated, quote, "The bottom line is that because of Iraq's choosing, they have painted me as a troublemaker in an effort to distract the world's attention away from its failure, Iraq's failure, to abide by its disarmament obligations." And that
remind me, were there weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? I don't think there were, but it's also been forever, so I don't know.
That, quote, Iraq still has prescribed weapons capability. I've linked to that interview itself if you want to check it out. At the time, this comes off as someone who is quite concerned that Iraq may attempt to rearm itself. While I cannot prove this, so I will fully admit that I could be wrong, and what I'm about to say is just speculation, this rhetoric is very similar to the claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction that was used to justify the invasion in 2003.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it was initially Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, so we need to invade, and then after, we can't find them, but they still have the potential, so we got to keep looking. I'm simplifying it, but I think that's how it played out.
A claim which, if you weren't alive back then, which there is a decent chance and might apply to anyone who's watching this video, it was later proven to be false, meaning it's entirely possible Mr. Ritter's claims were used in the justification of the 2003 Iraq War. However, if you go back to 1991, you'll find something very interesting. In August of that year, Mr. Ritter married his second and current wife, a 19-year-old Russian by the name of, I'm going to butcher this again, Marina Katyashvili.
Marina Katyashvili. I'm not actually Russian, so I don't know how to pronounce it.
Marina allegedly worked in Russia as an escort. I'm not holding that against him, but more important to the situation is
respect. We respect our sex workers here.
She also had ties to the KGB. You know, the Soviet intelligence service. To my knowledge, she's still married, and despite knowing about those ties and how they'd be a huge conflict of interest with his job, Scott chose to marry her, yet still tried to hold his position. That conflict of interest alone should disqualify Mr. Ritter from being a commentator on any geopolitical issues involving Russia. It's even been speculated by some that Marina was used as a honeypot trap. If you've never heard that term, basically it's an intelligence trick where romantic or sexual relations are used to either gather intelligence or manipulate people. Given the previously mentioned ties Mr. Ritter's current wife has to the KGB, as well as the fact that Mr. Ritter has never been critical of Vladimir Putin, it's entirely possible that Marina influenced Ritter's opinion before the Iraq War, and still does to this day. Again, and that's speculating, but still. Now, I'm about to say something that is just speculation, but I suspect the actual reason for his change of heart was because he was kicked out and still wanted relevancy. This, combined with the fact that his first arrest for pedophilia produced a very expensive set of legal bills, meant that he basically had no choice but to speak for whoever was willing to pay him.
Yeah, that's kind of the consequence of getting convicted for pedophilia, isn't it?
And given what his field of expertise is, combined with the current geopolitical environment, means that unless he actually gets locked up for good, he's probably going to stick around like some kind of cockroach. Now, I was going to just say he just wanted relevancy, but on a whim, I decided to go to the website Instant Checkmate, and sure enough, Scott Ritter has declared bankruptcy.
He's declared bankruptcy and he's still going. I mean, I guess he's got to make money somehow, but I'm gonna be real. I'm glad his life is not going well for him.
It's quite apparent that Mr. Ritter won't leave no matter how many times he gets called out. I don't think getting banned on Twitter would be enough to get him to go away, as aside from the fact that he has been suspended from Twitter before, he was doing speaking gigs before the site even existed.
This is true, and also, have y'all ever heard of an account called Dom Lucre? They were an account that got banned off of Twitter for posting literal CSEM. I think they were trying to win an argument or something, but they got banned off Twitter for obvious reasons. And then I think it was Elon Musk who was like, yeah, we should unban them.
So it's likely he'd just find other ways. I think the best way to get him to stop speaking would be getting him called out in front of a national audience. As in, have him go on, I don't know, MSNBC and bring the charges against him up. Force them out in the open in front of a large audience. And
God, I wish MSNBC was ballsy enough to do that. But odds are they won't. That would be great content, though.
if he tries to deny those claims, bring up evidence, such as the fact that he's still listed in sex offender databases, or the testimony of the officer who caught him the second time. Something similar to what Mehdi Hassan did to Matt Taibbi when the two debated over the Twitter files. I would play a clip of that, but given that MSNBC is apparently quite copyright happy, I'll just link it in the description. That debate pretty much nuked any credibility Mr. Taibbi had left, but as I don't have any influence, I can only hope someone else takes my idea and runs with it.
Hopefully.
So, why did I write this essay anyways? And why did I make this video, you may
Follow
ask?
bad
I guess
people?
it was because of, well, what I couldn't find. Namely, a video taking a look at what this guy had done off screen, I guess you could say. I doubt that someone like Jay Aubrey or The Right Opinion would take a crack at this guy, so I figured, even though I'm nowhere near as talented as those two people, there is literally no downside to taking matters into my own hands. I do have some stuff related to VTubing planned for future essays, which I'm working on right now, but for now, that's all I have to say. Hey, thanks for watching this. It's my first essay, so it's probably going to be really rough compared to stuff I make later on. Anyways, I have some essays in the works as of publishing this video, so if you want to see more from me, consider subscribing to stay informed, and also throw a like if you liked this video. It helps out greatly. And comment if you have any questions or just want to suggest improvements. But anyways, thanks for watching. I'm Andres Corbell, and I'll see you next assignment. Later.
Boop. Boop. Good video. Good video. I'm already subscribed to the dude. Y'all should be as well. So if you want to check out any of Andreas's other stuff, you're more than welcome to. Did he get convicted after his career? How could a convict hold any kind of security clearance? I'm pretty sure, I gotta double check that, but I am pretty sure that he got convicted in 2010, 2011, because the dude literally, like, Andreas literally posted, here it is. He got convicted in 2015, well after his involvement in the Iraq war, and well after his marriage to a ex-KGB agent, or somebody with ties to the KGB. Just want to take a quick second to thank all the people who have joined my channel membership to become one of my beeps. It means more to me than you know and goes a long way in supporting the channel. So, thank you to all of my beeps. I'll see you all next video. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it and a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe for more and connect to the community through Discord. And remember, if you can't be the sharpest tool in the shed, you can always be the hoe.